Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Roger. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Past 100 subscribers. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. So I gotta admit, I am not perfect. So I'm gonna talk to you guys today about what to do when you're getting a tenant in your investment property and what not to do, and the mistake that I made that really caused months of headaches. All right, so if you own an investment property and you're looking for a tenant, there's obvious things that you need to do, right? You need to market the property, you need to get potential tenants, you need to get applications, and then if you have multiple applications, you gotta pick who is the best tenant for me and my property, who's gonna pay. That's the most important thing. And the second most important thing is who's not gonna be a pain in my ass, right? So no one wants a pain in the ass tenant. So I'm gonna tell you what you should do. Watch to the end, because I'm gonna reveal my mistake and the most important thing when choosing a tenant. So step number one is obviously you get an application from your tenant. You're gonna get their background information, their name, their address, social, employment, where they work, how much they make, right? And then you're gonna get supporting documents. So you're gonna ask them for their pay stubs, you're gonna ask them for some asset statements, or if they're self-employed, maybe tax returns, to see if these tenants have consistent income, right? So obviously they gotta be able to pay rent. So you wanna do your due diligence, you wanna check and make sure they have a stable income, okay? The second thing you wanna do is you wanna check their credit, right? What's their credit score? Do they pay their bills on time? Have they had any evictions, okay? Evictions do show up on your credit report. So there's a ton of websites out there that you can use to pull potential tenants' credit. It's about $20 or $30. And some of them even now come with background checks. So you can even see if that tenant that you're about to let into your property has ever been convicted of any crimes, okay? So check in their credit, check their employment, check their background, and then definitely call their previous landlords, okay? That should be listed on the application. Who were their past landlords? Give them a call. Did they pay rent on time? Were there any disturbances? Did they cause any issues? Okay, so these are the obvious steps that you need to take when you're getting a tenant. Now, I had pretty good luck. I was pretty fortunate. The property that I own, and I had two different tenants. Both of them were great. They always paid on time. They were super respectful, and everything went very smoothly. But recently, I helped my mom buy her first property. And if you haven't seen that video, I made a whole video about the process and the story of my mom buying her first property after, coming to this country as an immigrant and living here for 30 years. So that will be in the description below if you're interested in seeing that. It's kind of emotional, heartfelt video. So if you want to see that, I'll leave the description below. So my mom got her first investment property, and obviously I helped her with the real estate and the loan. And yeah, I hooked her up. Let's just say it's my mom. So obviously I hooked her up, and I was in charge of finding the right tenant and making sure that my mom's first experience was not a shitty one. And this is where I dropped the ball. So we had a few open houses. We showed the property a bunch of times. Actually, my mom did, not me. So my mom was the one meeting these potential tenants in person, okay? After showing the place to about 10 people, we got 2 applications, okay? So the first application was a young couple, decent credit, and again, I didn't meet them, but spoke to them on the phone. They seem nice, right? Decent credit, they just didn't make a lot of money, right? They were young, they're in their early 20s, they work part-time. So that was a little concerning, is that they didn't make a ton of money, very little money to be accurate. But their parents, the girl's parents, it was a young couple, right? It was the girl's parents were willing to co-sign. They were willing to co-sign on the lease. So we brought up the issue that, hey, we have another potential tenant, we have another applicant. Your application's okay, it's not the worst, it's not the best. The parents were willing to co-sign. Okay, so that was our first option. Second option was another gentleman who had, again, decent credit, very similar to the young couple, but he had like retirement consistent income, right? About like $7,000 consistent government retirement income. Okay. So on the face of it, if you just looked at the numbers, you just looked at their income, their credit score, it was clear that, hey, we should go with this gentleman who's got the guaranteed income. Okay. So this is the part where I feel like I messed up. So when I was renting out my properties, I met every single applicant. Okay. I met them in person, saw them when they came into the house to see the house. And after my mom's experience, I realized how much meeting a person face to face, shaking their hand, looking them in the eye, watching how they behave can say so much about a person. Because when I had people coming in, when I was renting my property out a few years ago, you could see the difference. There's some people who would come into the house. They were super respectful. They asked if they should take off their shoes. They came right up to me, shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and introduced themselves. And then there are some people who just walk in like all moseying around, looking, didn't really say anything. And again, not to be too judgy, but there's a lot you could tell about a person and their character, about how they come into a situation like that. Like, you're about to rent out somebody else's property, right? There should be a certain level of respect, a certain level of, I don't know, just common decency when you're looking to rent someone else's house. So going back to my mom's tenant, right? So we ended up going with the second guy, right? With the guy with the consistent income. And I didn't meet either of these people in person, right? And he ended up being a pain in the ass. He ended up calling and complaining every other day for the first 3 months, complaining, just kind of, being excessive, right? Of course, when you're renting out a property and you're a landlord, you're an owner, you want to make sure everything is working, but there's certain level of like, hey, this is something that you got to just deal with. You took over the property in this condition, and to ask for things to be replaced and brand new things to be put in, it's just excessive. So my biggest takeaway, basically, if you're a property owner, you're a landlord, and you're looking for a tenant, one of the most underrated things is meet them in person. Meet them in person, shake their hands, look them in the eye, and get a feel of what kind of person they are. Because it's not just about how much money they make or their credit score. You want to be able to meet a person because you can tell a lot. You can judge a person by their character by meeting them in person. So that was my biggest takeaway after I had managed my own property, managed my clients' properties, and going through that experience with my mom, I realized, hey, it actually means a lot meeting someone in person, because I felt like if I would have met this guy in person, I might have picked up on these vibes and we might have gone with the younger couple, looking back in hindsight, who would have been maybe more laid back. And even though they didn't make as much money, they had their parents co-sign. So that's my biggest takeaways. Meet your potential tenants in person. Of course, do all the background stuff, but definitely meet them in person, shake their hand, look them in the eye, because that can say a lot. Okay. So that's my biggest takeaway when getting a tenant. So quick video here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much. I feel so, grateful that, I really started posting these videos about a few months ago, and getting over 100 subscribers really means a lot. So I really appreciate it. So hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. If you have any ideas or topics that you would like me to cover in the future, please leave a comment below and subscribe, share with a friend if you feel like they might benefit from watching these videos, and hope to see you guys next time.